is his real name. I don't know if you know anything about
Yeah,
it.
so the actual
He's
study
an
took
aerospace engineer.
Bro,
Yeah, so
stop
the-
talking about medicine. Let's move on.
Said he was an aerospace engineer. You're talking about the guy that we covered that did a video about planes flying on a globe.
I don't know. I think he was just a fighter pilot.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't personally verified his credentials or anything.
Yeah, so can you actually find me any Tuskegee timeline where they infected these people with?
Bro,
They didn't.
just
We already went
move
over that.
on.
Let's move on.
They want to see the long-term effects of syphilis or whatever.
Oh my god.
Different topic. I mean,
You not know how to listen to a mod?
It makes you crazy and then you die. That's all. Move on.
Now they're doing a vaccine experiment on the whole population.
Emmett.
Hey. I'd rather wait for the rest of the guinea pigs to see if they're going to be sterilized or,
No, they're talking about flat Earth or.
All right, check it. I'm gonna hit you with the red pill. So, whenever Noah was telling everyone that it was about the flood, they thought he was crazy, and that's because it had never rained from the sky before that. So anyway, there were just a bunch of different elevations of land. There's a topographical plane with a bunch of different elevations, and then it rained. It flooded the earth, and then effectively just sitting there floating, waiting until some land was visible again. So the water starts to go down, and then he sees the land. He lands on the highest elevations. So major parts of these world civilizations that were there before that are actually under the ocean, which is the original topographical plane prior to the flood. And that's why they're discovering all of these city structures underneath the water at way lower elevations than they currently predicted based on their quote-unquote geological timelines of the ice ages and stuff like this. So they're admitting that they're going to have to update their entire geological timeline and historical timeline based on things they're finding deep under the ocean. Isn't that interesting?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Who is they?
Yeah, so
People that discovered the stuff under the ocean.
yeah, so under the ocean or within lakes and big
No, in the
bodies of
ocean.
water? In the ocean. In the ocean.
In the ocean.
Where's one thing in the ocean?
So you're
Right off
you're
the
telling us
coastline of Cuba.
Right
so
off the
you're-
coastline of Cuba.
you're telling us geologists and oceanographers are beholden to stories in Genesis now?
No. They're finding remains that are not naturally occurring at too deep of elevations in the ocean that will not jive with their previously stated geological timeline.
Go ahead and cite that too.
So why
Sure.
are you bringing mythology stories from Genesis into this?
Oh, I was just explaining what I think and then explaining what that's trying to explain. And obviously you're going to run away from the first
okay.
part. So yeah. How about you talk about
No. Well, what I think, I mean, if you want to say what you think, what I think is they might have to revise a few things that we know about that. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to revise the geological column as we currently know it.
So the geological timeline and the historical timeline of people group.
No.
Or that's what
I
you don't
mean,
seem to understand.
Not
is
like,
that they have
not in the purview of stories in Genesis. That's all.
Okay, that's what you double back down to diverting away.
No, I'm still talking about this topic that we're finding. Apparently, we're finding some things that are unexpected on the ocean floor. I'm still on this topic. I was just wondering before why you preface it with a story in Genesis, but I get
everyone
it.
agrees.
I get it now. I get it now.
Yeah,
No.
Every
It's cool. It's what
there was a flood, but you know there
it's what
wasn't
you
because you're
personally
so far.
believe in. It's
Every
what you
ancient
personally
civilization
believe in
said
your
there was a
faith, and I'll
flood,
just leave it
though.
at that.
Well, no, every ancient civilization said there was a
Well,
flood.
you're over talking me now, so
Every
yeah.
ancient civilization said, because you interrupted me to do that. Every ancient civilization said there was a flood. Your geological priest that you revere say there was a giant flood. Mainstream science, for your side, quote unquote, says that there was a flood. So it seems like
No.
you don't know your own religion.
No, so mainstream science says that there are floods in different areas at different times, but no mainstream scientist says that there was a worldwide flood across
Yeah, they
the
do.
entire
What they
world.
say was that there was this huge ice age, and then they theorized what caused the massive melting of ice. One of the
There
theories
wasn't
is
a massive melting.
one of the theories is literally that a comet had broken up into different pieces of debris and hit the Earth, and it melted the ice, and then that caused like a giant rise in sea level, effectively flooding the Earth.
You're
You're talking as if this happened
You guys probably
only
believe that.
once.
You probably believe
so,
that.
so
Okay,
there's a
you're
theory.
talking as if this only happened once. Take for example the Missoula floods. That happened many, many times over the interglacial periods here in the Pacific Northwest. So we had torrential floods, dozens of them, going back like 300,000 years. Like it averaged like
300,000.
every 15,000 years we'd get a flood that would come ripping through the Pacific Northwest from Idaho. They
Right,
call
so you
them
see
the
these
Missoula floods.
Right, you see these
So
numbers that you're saying?
talking,
That's what I'm
you
saying,
are,
that they're
you are
admitting they're
talking,
wrong.
you're over talking me. So you are talking as if there was just one gigantic historical cataclysmic flood that we can reference. There's actually many, many, many naturalistic floods that we could reference.
Okay, so all of those timelines that you just said, the 300,000 years and every 15,000 years, those are the very type of timelines I'm trying to explain to you. They're admitting we're wrong.
Who's admitting? Just a handful of scientists?
Well, numerous people that are going based off of your dating methodologies and the different elevations, the depths in which these remains are being found. Right, because they have timelines for everything, right? So it's like this flooded at this time, this was a sea level at this time, and they have a whole geological timeline based on this. So whenever they find these man-made structures too deep, it doesn't line up with their timeline. And then they date it using the methodologies you guys think are real and just invoked by using the word 300,000. And they're admitting that they have to be revised.
Are you under the impression that to just throw everything out and start over? Is that what you're going to say? They're not going to amend the current knowledge. They're just going to throw everything out and say we got to start from scratch and try new scientific theories that we need to validate.
No. They're gonna have to completely rearrange the entire thing from the beginning, though.
Or is
really
this just,
doubt that.
So if this is from a handful of people, or is this from like the entirety of the scientific community?
It's from the different discoveries. I think you guys don't want to know truth, but that's a personal decision, right? So numerous discoveries, like whenever they found this in Cuba, right? What happened was
You're funny, man.
So Cuba contracted a private company to do this, and whenever they started discovering this, after a little while, Cuba shut it down. That's just one of the many examples. I mean, I can show you. I have a video somewhere that shows you all of them. You can look them all up. I verified all of them, so they're very real. Yeah, you guys just don't want to know truth. So what we're discovering is that there are actual cities that are deeper in the ocean than we expected them to be, according to mainstream science. So take it or leave it. I mean, whatever.
All right, that's fine. I guess what we can just do is sit back and wait and see what happens.
That's what you guys normally do. Just sit back and wait.
Let's reconvene on some Discord server about 5 years from now, and see what kind of progress that they've made. Okay?
That's what you do. You just sit back.
And all that.
Yeah, you just sit back and you wait for them to tell you what it is you're supposed to believe. Like, watch this. Who in this room agrees that a Mars-sized body hit the Earth, exchanged energy to its core, broke it up into a bunch of different pieces of debris over the course of billions of years? Gravity coalesced them into perfect spheres. Only one piece of the debris stuck around and coalesced into a sphere, and that's the moon. Who thinks that really happened?
No. So the actual science is that they believe that the Earth had 2 moons after the impact. And they congealed into one big moon, and that's why there's like a noticeable difference in the material on either side of the moon.
Yeah, you need to get a little lobotomy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you believe that a Mars-sized body hit the Earth, exchanged energy to its core, broke it up into pieces of debris, and then it stuck around and turned into a moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is
So, yeah, so you think that some space daddy just made everything like this?
Wow, you actually said that as if that's more unfounded than what you blindly believe.
Oh no, so there's actually evidence for that hypothesis.
Really? So
rather
when I
than
cite
the act-
Harvard saying that it has no evidence, what are you gonna say?
that Harvard has no evidence of.
So whenever I cite Harvard saying that's one of the weakest theories that
No,
we
so,
have regarding the solar system,
there's-
and
so
that they're
there's-
throwing it out.
Yeah, go ahead and link that. I'm still waiting on your 2 prior studies.
Okay, this is hilarious.
But that's fine. Because the mainstream belief right now is that the moon is actually a congealed combination of 2 separate moons that formed during
It's
that
funny
period.
that you said the
Bro, your
mainstream
brain is
belief.
congealed.
He just said the mainstream belief. It's not like he's even trying to hide that it's a fact. He's just saying straight up that it's the mainstream belief. It's funny.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. He blindly believes it. He believes stories about billions of years ago that people just came up with in their mind. And he actually thinks that we're crazy for not blindly believing them.
Yeah, Jason or JS, I know, but again, so the mainstream, like the reason I say mainstream belief is that we're discovering new things every day, rather than just sticking with some textbook made by man 2,000 years ago.
Much longer
But,
than that. Go ahead.
No, 2,000, not even 2,000 years ago it was written.
Genesis is from way longer than 2,000 years
Yeah,
ago.
so when did they write it?
Dude, your own side would say that Genesis is at least from 25 to 3,000 BC.
So
You
when
don't
was
know
it
anything.
written? So
And
when
it's
was it written?
4,500 BC.
So when was it written?
4,500 BC.
No. It
Oh,
wasn't
really?
written 4,500 BC. It was
When
told
was it
by word
written?
of mouth like 1,000 BC ago, and that's why it has so much influence from Greek mythology. But that's neither here nor there. We can get back on the point. So a lot of data
Well,
actually.
did you
looked at
say
the moon,
1,000 BC ago?
or 1,000 BC? I may have misspoken. 1,000 BC, I should say.
Alright.
Well,
Which
it
is
says
why-
right here that there was Genesis was written in 550 BC.
Okay, so is that 4,500 BC?
Well, we can keep finding. This is the first one. They're all going to disagree, but you said that everyone says that it wasn't written till a couple thousand years ago.
So I was close. About 2,500 years ago.
Okay, and so whenever I find another one that says it was older than that, what are you going to say then?
So far, he's closer than you.
Or
with
then
it.
you're
I know, but I already know that this is just the first thing that popped up.
So then you're showing contradictory
she said.
information,
Well,
and then
what-
that's
well,
odd.
What typical people do, right? That are like you, like atheist degenerates. They just have this phrase they repeat a lot, which is, "You believe in a sky daddy with a book from 2,000 years ago." You've been told to say that, so you just say 2,000 years ago over and over, but you haven't even researched it.
Yeah, so 2,500 years ago, the entirety of the Bible actually wasn't coalesced until, or like the canon of the Bible wasn't actually put together until 180 AD.
That's not what we're
Hold up.
talking about.
What's this guy's argument? Because even
So-
before the scripture, you don't think people believed in a creator? Like, what are you trying to argue, bro?
People say
No, that's the funny part.
2,000
Is
years
like you
ago,
get a
they're
whole
usually referring to the New Testament. That's why.
no. So
Yeah, and
the-
he's
not
also-
referring to the Old Testament.
yeah, so that's the
he's
funny
also
part. Is
arguing
because,
that his belief is more founded about fairy tales from billions of years ago than someone acknowledging that there was a creator. That his beliefs
Or-
are more founded.
or that our findings are more indicative of randomization rather than creation.
Or
That's not
intelligent
true.
design?
And why is there equal dispersal relative to the Earth being the central point?
Because again, equal dispersal does not necessarily mean a creator. It just follows Newton's laws.
So wait, equal dispersal is consistent with randomization, is what you're saying.
No, so are the congealing of the Earth is more of a random event, like the Moon is more of a random event, like a Mars-sized planet colliding with
Prove
our
that.
smaller planet congeal. So when you take a look at like the Moon's composition, and they show 2 different compositions depending on where you are on the Moon, that's pretty odd. And then again with the equal dispersal, more or less equal, that's just following Newton's laws of motion and momentum.
There's different compositions all over the Earth. Are we made up of multiple Earths that all congeal
No,
together
so
now?
when you take a look at something like aluminum, it's fairly consistent throughout the planet. It's our third most common element. But when you take a look at the moon and you notice that roughly half of the moon, very variant based on what side of the moon you're on, is made up of far less aluminum and more. I think I'll have to look at what the other element is. It's not
How about
aluminum.
you prove any of
What
this
the
shit?
hell source you think is giving you
What the
data on the
fuck
other
is
side of the
this?
moon? I mean, come on,
Show us
bro.
the aluminum from the moon. Come on now.
Many volatile elements. This is according to the pseudoscience. Many volatile elements that are relatively common on Earth, such as potassium, sodium, and copper, are far less abundant on the moon. There hasn't been a good explanation for this. People have proposed various hypotheses for how the moon could have wound up with fewer volatiles, but no one has been able to quantitatively match the moon's composition. This is Harvard, like I told you, I'll cite it.
Mhm.
This is Harvard telling you that your theory has tons of holes in it. This is from 2018.
Oh, so we're just pretending that the
There's
moon has
actually
been proven
various
to be
theories.
an object of matter that has these elements to begin with.
Yeah. You have to pretend all their fairy tales, and then it still doesn't work.
So
That's
it's just
what's
an
All their
internal
fairy
critique
tales. That's
of
something
their
we
model.
look at. So something that we look at isn't physical. I mean, if you want to believe
What
the
about
fairy
that
tale that there's some
backside?
sort of
What about that? How do
magic-
we look at that backside you was talking about?
So if you want to go off of like this fairy tale that this thing that we look up at the sky isn't actually there, that it's just some sort of magical projection, that's kind of more of a
We
fairy
don't know
tale
what
to
it
me.
is because no one's ever been up there.
According to you, most
No,
people
according
beg
to
to
the
differ.
truth.
According to your
Most people
truth.
are tricked. But if I'm cool if you guys want to do like an internal critique of the heliocentric model and just basically pretend it's real as a hypothetical. That's fine.
Yeah, so I believe a minority of people are tricked into believing that it was fake by some sort of Russian psyop, but that's okay.
Cool belief.
Well, really, I was just making a point that you blindly believe whatever you're told, including a story of how the moon got there.
Yes, kind of like how you blindly believe in a book written by mortal men. How many hundreds of years ago?
No, I didn't blindly believe it, right? I have numerous things that are just anecdotal that won't hold much weight to you, like me praying about what I wanted exactly with a wife, then opening up a book of 2,000 pages, literally directly to a verse about him instructing Hosea on how to go pick out a wife, and then me praying about like 5 other things specific to what I opened the book to, and then me having direct answers to my prayers and numerous things, me seeing miracles like people being healed. I know that doesn't hold weight for you because it's anecdotal, but no, it's not just because there's a book. So I'm sorry, but what you do is you blindly believe in some fairy tale in a book from billions of years ago that is preposterous.
Not from billions
And
of
you
years
actually
ago.
you're so flooded down, right, in your own ego, you don't even realize it's the
Oh no,
same
it's
thing.
not
You
a
think
book
it's
from
the
billions
same
of years
thing.
ago.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You think you can make fun of
You
other people.
saying bogged down in our own egos is kind of funny.
It's not a book from billions of years ago. It's a book from actually like a
I
couple
didn't say
decades
the book
ago.
was from. I said that the story was about billions of years ago, and you're so
You
blinded
said
by
a
your
book from
own.
billions of years ago. Those were your exact words.
You're so blinded
the
by your
difference
own
is-
ego that
The
you
difference
don't
is we don't have
realize
to
you're
rely
making
on
fun of people
anecdotal
for the same
stories.
thing you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you do. You're relying on pure theoretical fairy tales, dude. What are you talking about?
pure
No,
theoretical
we
fairy
can
tales like
rely
a
on
magic
empirical
Like
god
the
that
results.
Big Bang. I'm sorry, but your whole fucking science begins with a miracle. It needs a miracle to exist. The Big Bang is completely unfunded. It's shithole coming out of a butthole.
And it still has a
Yes.
pre-existing energy. In the Big Bang Theory, there's a pre-existing energy.
Yep.
That's right.
Yes, but at least
That's
so
miraculous in
you
itself.
can't get
A
away
lot
from
higher
it.
You
than
see
what
what
we
you're
can
doing when
understand
we're
the beginning of
debunk-
time. Bless
No,
you.
When
so
we're
you're not-
debunking you, you say always
there's
yes,
no
but.
debunking.
Listen, we're actually gonna take
There's
that.
no
We don't even
debunking.
care that you're trying to debunk us. Every single time you try to destroy our points, you always start with
Yes,
yes, but. The moment
Hold
you
on.
just said yes, but, you just accepted the fact that you're full of shit. That's all we
No,
need.
no.
Yes.
You can't
according to
escape.
you or
You
who?
can't
Yes.
escape God, bro.
So-
You can't escape.
Yeah, so the issue that I have with Christianity at its very, I was baptized Catholic, and I kind of like lost faith with a lot of stuff because at least other religions actually had the like the Gaul, or at least like bothered to come up with an origin for their
Catholics
god.
are antithetical to the scriptures.
Yeah, so again, at least the Greeks, the Native Americans, the Mayans, the Indians, like the Hindi, the Buddhist, not the Buddhists, they don't believe in gods per se, but
Hindi is a language.
yeah, so like the Hindu, right?
Yeah, Buddhists know that God
at
exists too, but
At
anyway.
least they bothered to come up with an origin for their gods. Right?
Catholicism is antithetical to the scriptures.
Christianity in general, right? Doesn't
Christianity's
even
a
bother.
religion. I don't adhere to that religion
Yeah,
either.
so at least the whole like Abrahamic faith, they're unlike most other religions, because most other religions actually bothered to create an origin for their god.
An origin for their god?
Yes.
You're so fucking stupid, man. You're exposing yourself.
No,
the
I'm not.
Abrahamic faiths, their tenet is that God is eternal.
Yes.
So why would they have an origin for their god? You fucking
a
retard.
god that has always been there. Somewhere
Yeah.
it came somehow it's always been there. Never a time where it wasn't there.
That's what you're
Because
saying.
God created time, you retard.
Hold
Dude,
on.
I gotta put this out. That's what the Big Bang Theory says. That's what the Big Bang Theory says.
The Big Bang Theory says that mass came from nothing. At least like the Greeks, they kind of.
It doesn't say that. It says there was a pre-existing energy, bro. It says there was a pre-existing energy.
Yes, that we look further into and we see, oh hey, it may have came from another dimension.
You don't
Whereas at least
realize
the
how
Greek- whereas
The
at
Big
least
Bang doesn't address where it started from, but one possibility is that it was always there, definitely. And that period is a logic that we as humans don't have the ability to reconcile fully, and we should appreciate the power of that.
So at least like the Greeks, they were able to say like, hey, our like the Titans, or was it the Titans came from chaos, who created Gaia, and then made it and created Titans, and then the Titans created gods.
Okay, but look, do you
at least
understand the
that
overarching?
percentage has the goal to admit that Christianity is not logical.
Do you understand the overarching premise here, which is that you don't realize the hypocrisy and you making fun of other people's worldviews whenever they acknowledge a creator, but your religion of heliocentrism, dependent upon the Big Bang, says there was a pre-existing energy, and you have to blindly believe in fairy tales about billions of years ago, and you literally don't see how it's hypocritical for you to try to bash someone else for a belief?
Yeah, so the whole thing about religion is it goes off of faith, but actually looking with the sciences and seeing that our world is actually round, that is no longer faith. That is just fact of our nature.
No,
That
you
is
have
fact
faith
of the
that there
world.
was a pre-existing energy and then it exploded.
You're right. That itself could be considered faith or a religion, right? But when we look at heliocentrism, and we can actually look at the facts and be like, oh hey, the world really is round. Oh hey, we really are moving around the Milky Way galaxy. I mean,
How would you
That's
know
not-
that if
that's
there's
not
no
faith at all.
parallax? How would you know
I mean,
that? There's no parallax.
There's no parallax.
No, the stars just keep doing the same thing. You think you're shooting through space?
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. That's why you claim that the stars are
Yeah,
thousands
so-
of light years away, because you
Yeah,
wouldn't
so-
see the difference. You don't
Yeah,
even know the
so-
origin of your religion.
Yeah, so when we take a look at ancient Egyptian pyramids, like when we see like the little holes that would correlate with where stars would shine through, and we notice that they're off, that nothing really shines through, and we actually reverse like our predictions on where stars would have been 5,000 years ago, actually correlate perfectly, because those stars and those placements would shine perfectly through those pyramids. That's really odd how that works out. How 5,000 years ago they built these pyramids for these certain stars to shine through, and then 5,000 years later, due to the movement of our sun through the Milky Way galaxy,
Bro,
those stars no longer shine through.
Can you tell me what kind of drugs you take? I want to buy some.
I just drink and do a little bit of nicotine, so you could probably get them at your local gas station.
Man, this
Don't lie,
guy.
you do some CBD too.
This guy does
no,
some
I don't.
heavy shit, man. He just can't say he's doing it because FBI is gonna come over. his
Oh,
house.
so yeah, I'm sorry that ancient Egyptians kind of debunk your whole idea that stars are permanently
Bro,
fixed in
you
position.
believe that the universe came out of nothing infinitely quickly
Yeah, so
for no
I'm
fucking
glad
reason.
how you. I'm glad you. I'm glad how you ignored.
No,
the
it
whole
didn't came
point
out of
about-
nothing, not
I'm
for
glad-
no reason, and not infinitely quickly. No, it has a very good reason. Somebody actually did it for a purpose, and it came up in a specific way. No, it's not at all the same thing.
So
Yo,
again,
not for
I'm glad
nothing.
how
It didn't
you.
come out
I'm
of
glad.
nothing.
I'm glad how you completely glossed over the point that I made about the Egyptian pyramids, but that's fine. That's fine. That's
Yeah, because
perfectly
I've
okay.
never heard anybody say that because it's complete bullshit. Like, where
No,
did
it's
you
not
get
bullshit.
that?
So it's actually where we started to look
Nobody
back to see
even
if.
say, bro. Even
Well, hold
Globers
on.
say that we cannot see the movement of the stars because it's so small, and you're literally
Yes,
saying it's
yes,
big.
you're right.
You're the
No,
first one I've actually heard.
no. I'm saying within our lifetimes we can't see the movement, but when we look
Yeah,
back
every
5,000
single
years
Glober
ago,
I've talked to never said that we can actually even measure it in thousands of years.
We can
Literally, you're
actually
the
measure
first
it in
Glober
thousands
that's
of
saying
years.
that.
yeah.
So
So
you're full of shit.
so again, when I say over the course of 5,000 years, worth versus like the course of like one single person's
Can you
lifetime.
actually give me like the thing you've read or the video you saw that?
Yeah, so we can actually take a look back at are the like not the original North Star, but the North Star that the Egyptians actually used for their alignment of their pyramids.
Just give me the video, bro.
Why do I have to give you a video?
I'll
Why can't I
watch it.
give
You don't
you
have
like?
to explain it to me.
Yeah,
I'll watch
okay.
it myself.
Yeah, so I'll try and find the video or the documentary or the papers over this, right?
Sure.
But I'm aware that you probably won't.
No,
actually
I
care.
actually do. Usually, flat earthers actually do research the bullshit themselves.
No, they
so
don't.
They get to know it. Yes, we actually do. Buddy, I spent 9 hours listening to a guy testifying about vaccines. I'm a nutty. I spent 9 hours listening to that, and I didn't believe in anything he said. I do lots of things I don't like, so I get to have the knowledge. Yeah, trust me.
That's what
We
flat
do
earthers do.
Yeah,
Trust
that's
you.
what we do. No, it's not stupid. It's the only wise thing to do, to know the sides of of the coin. Both
So that's
sides.
what an intellectually honest person would do. They would remove bias. They would look at all the information from all angles for both sides of an argument, and then try to figure out where the evidence lies.
Yep.
But that's not what globe earthers do. They literally only look at it from the lens of proving a globe earth.
Yep.
Well, the
I know
evidence
that
happens
just
to prove
stung.
the globe. I'm not sure what we should do about that.
Yeah, I know that just
Maybe
stung really
destroy
deep
the
in this
evidence
whole room, didn't
so
it?
it doesn't do that.
That stung a little bit. See, there are two types of perspectives here. One side was just like you guys, believed in the globe, and they stepped back, removed bias. They wanted to look at all the evidence from all angles, honestly looking at it from both sides of the argument, and then want to come to a conclusion based on the evidence. Globe earthers literally only look at it trying to prove the globe.
I agree with it. That is an issue. So one side is actually looking honestly at the whole big picture, and the other side is dishonest and only trying to prove the flat earth. You're exactly right. That's how it happens.
You really killed that one.
This guy spits
yeah.
stupidity when
I
he
did
talks.
actually kill that
Can
one.
you sense it?
Well, Andrew, you're actually hitting the nail on the head, because that's my point. My point is to expose that WITSIT is just making a claim, and we are just supposed to believe that, oh yeah, globe earthers are only trying to prove the globe.
Man, don't pick
because
on
he
WITSIT.
says
He's
so.
a brilliant dude. I love him.
said
He's the
so,
smartest
so
hell
that
guy.
has to be true. I can just counter that by
you don't have
making
to-
my
hey,
own
brother.
argument and claiming myself.
All right, brother, you don't
And
have to
because
blindly
this
believe
is
me.
just making
No.
claims and not backing them up, I can
Yeah,
just
hey.
do that, and you have to believe me.
Okay, well, I'm sure there are some exceptions.
So I've now
maybe.
proven that flat earthers are dishonest. How about that?
No, I'll say this. I'm sure there may be a couple
So
exceptions.
you cannot counter that. Thank you.
There may be a couple exceptions where a globe earther really honestly looked at all sides and they were like, well, how would flat earth explain this? How would globe earth explain this? And but if you're in there with this stigma in your mind that you're really just trying to prove how it works on a globe earth and how it couldn't work if it wasn't a globe, then you've fogged down your mind. You can't honestly look at the conversation. And I know for a fact that majority of this room is that very way. Because I ask them questions to see if that's true. I literally test them without them knowing. I tried to see if they've ever even honestly entertained it from the other perspective.
Sure.
And they fail the test every time in this room, dude.
Yeah, so if we
Yeah,
actually
but
look up,
again, that's your opinion, and that's
of course.
just your narrative. That you want
so
to up.
if we take a look at this source right here, we can it actually goes over. Oh, not that one. I don't know why that one got posted. Hold on. Let me copy this correctly. Let me see if this will paste.
I actually became a flat earther by trying to prove the globe.
Yeah, so here is a like a source going over different Egyptian temples that don't really correlate with like starports, I think they call them, or like star viewing holes with the stars' alignment in our current day. But if we backtrack the stars to 5,000, 6,000 years ago when these pyramids were created, lines up pretty damn well. And how certain pyramids were actually aligned for a different North Star than what we currently have. But that's
Just
fine
like
if you don't want to believe it.
No, you're not. Okay, it's very simple, bro. You think this is this your home run?
No.
Yeah, it is. I can tell by how you presented it when I said the stars don't reset. So, is it agreed that these pyramids were built lined up with the stars? Does everyone agree on that?
Sure.
Well, they objectively don't.
See,
Yes,
what's
so-
just presented to you that you're starting with a presupposition that is false. So
Exactly.
Yeah, so again, they don't align up with our current star alignment. But
No.
again,
Everyone doesn't agree they even built them to line up with the stars. Were all the pyramids built at the same time?
No, they were built over the course of 6,000 years.
Okay. Were they all planned at the same time?
No.
Okay.
Which is why when we take a look at pyramids that were built in similar times, they seem to use different stars for their arrangements, which is
So
odd.
they were built over the course of 6,000 years.
Different ones.
Yeah.
And they show
so-
different star alignments.
Yeah. So the stars were different for each time they built the pyramid.
Not too different in some of them. Other ones, if you take a
6,000
look,
years.
yeah. So I said not
Oh,
all.
man.
So the ones that
Yeah,
the
this
oldest ones actually have a different North Star in their alignment in their viewing ports.
So what are the? Do you agree that they say it's the 3 stars of Orion's belt?
Yes, from those ones that are more recent than others that we look at.
Okay, and they weren't built at the same time.
No, they were built a couple hundred years apart from each other.
Okay, and they weren't planned at the same time.
No, they were not built at the same plan. I actually don't know about that. I have to look more into that. Regardless, when you take a look at when you take a look at pyramids built 6,000 years before the other ones, they seem to show, like when you look through their star viewing holes, which is kind of a following trend in pyramids. The oldest ones don't really seem to. You don't really get to see the stars that they mapped out until you roll back the map of where we think stars were 6,000 years ago, and sure enough, they shine through those holes.
Where'd you get to? How'd you map it out? How'd you map out your prediction?
Yeah, so we take a look at current star drift, like the very, very, very slight degree per year, and we map it back 6,000 years, and then sure enough, they line up.
Wait, so this was done after you tried to prove the theory?
What do you mean?
You tried to create a timeline to make it work with the pyramids after you came up with the theory?
No, separate.
So, but after.
Separate, but after, yes. Yeah, so
Okay.
again, the pyramids were made 6,000 years ago, and when you take a look at modern astronomers and where they think stars were 6,000 years ago, they took a look at our current star drift by a fraction of a percent, and or a degree, I should say, and they backtrack it 6,000 years ago. Oh, lo and behold, those pyramids line up.
With Orion's belt.
No.
Yeah, be specific.
No, taking a look at the previous North Star that we had about 5,000 years ago, other different stars that they worshipped 6,000 years ago.
So there are stars that are lined up in it right now.
Yeah, the more recent ones, more or less. I mean, you can see them ever so slightly on the corners of those viewing holes, which is another proof that they were more aligned back when they were made.
And
Yeah, there is a small problem with that. If you come up with the idea that they were like the theory that they kind of moved, but you then test it afterwards, that's a problem. So you
No,
need to
it's not a
first
problem.
and only then come up with the theory. You always test the theory before you come up with it.
No, so when you
Isn't
take
that
a look
what
at the
he
current, no, so
also
when you
said?
take
He's
a,
also backing me up here.
no, so
You
when
have
you
to
take a
test
look at,
theory
when you
before you
take a
come up.
look at, no, so when you take a look at current star drift, or when you take a look at star drift, and you see like their ever so slight percentage or degree, I should say, change per year, and you backtrack that, go the opposite degree, 6,000 years ago, whenever that pyramid was made, and now you have your star map that would have been prevalent 4, 5, 6,000 years ago, and they happen to correlate really well with the pyramids that you had built 6, 5, 4,000 years ago. It's really interesting how that works out.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
line it perfectly.
Because human hands can't make 100% perfect things.
They don't line up perfectly.
No, they don't line up directly in the center. No.
So neither
Ever
do the
so
stars
slightly
that are
off.
there, but the stars that are there right now don't either, right?
Line up perfectly?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Through the viewing ports, or just the pyramids being under?
Ports. That's what you're
Ports.
talking about. That's the actual view of it. What are you talking? Are you not talking about the view?
So the viewing ports, like the little holes in the sides of the pyramids.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
From 4, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, those don't line up at all with the stars that they were worshiping and trying to represent at the time.
If you assume your theoretical timeline, they don't line up.
Yeah. Like
That
6,000
sounds like
years
you.
ago, which is when we believe these pyramids created, don't really line up
Yeah,
with the stars
WITSIT
that they were
keeps on
showing.
presenting to you that you have presuppositions after presuppositions after presuppositions. That's all you're doing.
Yeah,
You're
you
coming
start
up
off with
dates,
start
numbers,
off.
periods,
Yeah,
non-stop.
so you predict when a pyramid was made because you weren't there when it was made, so you look at the evidence to try and figure out when
No,
the
we
pyramid
don't
was made.
predict shit. We just stop. We're not
You don't
talking
predict
about
shit?
predictions
Wait,
when it comes. You don't talk about them as if they're facts, okay? You can talk about them like at a cool,
No, so when
talk
you
we
take a
drink
look at the
some
design.
beers, but don't point them out as facts.
No, I'm not trying to say that they're a fact that they were made 6,000 years ago.
Okay, then
We
that's
just
a
take,
cool story,
we
bro. You
just,
can
yeah,
post it on
so
Reddit,
we
but
just,
we don't
yeah,
care.
so we just take a look at the design that it currently, again, the design, and we predict that it was made 6,000 years ago, and then we backtrack where we believe the stars were 6,000 years ago based off of the drift that they show per year. When you backtrack that 6,000 years ago back to when you believe this pyramid was made, lo and behold, those stars shine through those ports really damn well.
So back when you believe these pyramids were made,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And then you also
if
backtrack
you
when you
discount the
believe
fact
these
that they were built
stars were.
separately and they
Mhm.
were planned separately,
Yeah, planned separately.
and you've invoked an entire 6-year span in this, a 6,000-year span in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you then reverse, for intensive purposes, reverse engineer the idea of how long it would take to get back there, but it still wouldn't be perceived, then you can reify and pretend to make your story real about all of it. If you can make it work theoretically.
So you have two separate, count them, two separate predictions, and when those predictions seem to align in the timeline, that shows some evidence that you're pretty on track for both of them.
Yeah. So if your predicted age of these pyramids were wrong, what would that do to your theory?
If the predicted age was wrong, then that would kind of throw it off. You wouldn't.
I mean, it would drag. So here's the point: is what you're claiming the rate of change is for it to line up in the pyramids? Is that what you're claiming for sure that the rate of change is in your model?
Yes. So when you predict that a pyramid is 6,000 years old, and then you take a look at stars and you backtrack them 6,000 years with the rates that we have for them, and they seem to line up really well for 6,000 years and 6,000 years, and they again, those stars would have been viewable through those ports 6,000 years ago. That means you're pretty damn well set on your timeline.
But why aren't they visible from the ports now?
Because those stars moved.
There you go. They should be visible from the ports now, otherwise your theory
No, they
doesn't
wouldn't.
work.
Wait, why would again we say that the stars move ever so slightly every single year, not visible to the naked eye within our lifetime, but over the course of 6,000 years,
Yeah.
they would have moved out of the way. So why do these pyramids 6,000 years ago that were made 6,000 years ago? Why are these stars no longer visible through those ports?
I'm not sure. Stop saying 6,000 years. You're imagining numbers here.
The
So,
stars likely wouldn't have been useful for actually observing these objects, though. They were roughly oriented in horizontal sections and large stones blocking their exit. But despite a number of attempted shaft explorations, the mystery of their true purpose has persisted for more than half a century.
Yeah, that was all the way up until somebody designed a star map for what the stars would have looked like 6,000 years ago, and then their purpose became pretty damn clear.
Who did that?
Yeah.
Who did that? Can you show us that? Who did
Yeah.
that? Yeah, sure. Show us.
Yeah, let me try and figure out who that was.
Oh, now he has to figure out who the hell that was in the first place.
2020, researchers from Leeds University in the United Kingdom announced they had developed a small robot in an attempt to settle the shaft's surface once and for all.
Also, it still is a problem that we cannot see through the stars through the pores right now. Like, that should happen, right?
Yeah, if all the stars followed the same path every single year, like what they represent on certain flat Earth models, then yeah, you'd still be able to see them. But the fact of the matter is, you're no longer able to see these stars through those ports, which is kind of odd. It would be more indicative of a heliocentric model.
So if there's it's like a cyclical nature to the stars above us, right, and they move a little bit over the course of time, that would prove the Earth is a spinning ball in a heliocentric model.
A cyclical cycle to the stars. I don't see any evidence for a long-term cyclical cycle to the stars.
Well, all we have is
short-term
evidence of cyclical, and you have to make up stories about long-term.
No, so we have evidence that ancient navigators used an older North Star, or a different North Star than what we currently use.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they all these different civilizations use the same one.
Yeah, so some civilizations were more advanced than others. Others didn't really have any evidence or any like showing of navigational skills. But the ones that we do know of that were 3000 BC seem to have been using Thuban as their previous North Star, which is odd.
Well, is it really odd relative to their location and what they could see in the sky?
No, because Thuban would have been the North Star. Again, if you try and use a star other than Thuban,
star map.
yeah, they had pretty decent star maps. That's how we know that Thuban used to be our North Star 3000 BC, or like 5,000 years ago.
May I ask a
That's
question?
how we know that was the North Star.
Yes.
Wow. This is
Shouldn't be able to
odd
use
how
the
that
stars
is.
for
Astonishing, right?
navigation at all. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, odd how that is. How
This
looking back
is
at
just
ancient
unraveling
civilizations-
like at an astonishing rate. You don't realize
so-
that you're layering presuppositions that require one another. It's wild.
Yeah, it's odd to think that an ancient civilization using this as their navigational star because it didn't move around in the night sky, thus not throwing off your navigation.
It just didn't
odd.
move much. And it was a long time ago. And you took the star map and then presupposed that used to be the North Pole star, then presupposed the age of some pyramids, and then you just presuppose it doesn't matter that they were built at different times and planned at different times. And then you invoked a life or a time span of what, 6,000 years?
And you gotta assume the vast distances to the stars. Just
Yeah, so it's odd that
And
like,
movement
you know,
on the
bringing
earth.
up- I'm really glad you bring up that they were built at different times, because when we bring up the 6,000-year-old pyramids, how they align with the stars isn't the same as the ones built 3,000 years ago.
That sounds
So
like
I'm
a
glad
you
you brought
problem.
that up. No, that sounds like a you problem, because you try and say that the stars follow a cyclical path.
So
You just
6,000
said
years
that
ago,
stars
these
still
guys
line up
used
the same and pyramids
the
from
star
3,000 years
Thuban.
apart, and that's a me problem?
No. I mean, it's not a me problem. You would have to explain why ancient pyramids don't line up well with less ancient pyramids.
Line up well, how?
In how they oriented themselves, star-wise.
You got to explain how they line up at all if we're flying around through space. Come on, man.
I wouldn't have to explain that because, again, ever so slight
can
change
assume
in the
it.
stars.
Also, you
Wait,
said that
let me teach you guys
6,000
about the
years ago
model.
they used the star to track, and it was the pole star, and you said that they used it because it doesn't move. And
Dubin.
yet you say it's now no longer the pole star because it does move. So which one is
Yeah, so again, throughout the night when they were using it, it didn't move. Throughout the 100 years that they were using it, 500 years ago it wasn't, or throughout the 500 years that they were using it, it didn't move. But over the course, yeah. So over the course of how long ago? 3000 BC. So over the course of 5,000 years, now it's moved.
Now you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 5,000 years ago, again, the same way with how Polaris, we can tell that it ever so slightly wiggles, but not enough to throw off our navigation.
5,000 years ago. You say it with so much conviction, like you know it, bro. This is what. Do you know this is what actually happened, bro?
It's because we have the pyramid text to support that assertion. So we actually have evidence from Egypt where they are referencing a different star, and they talk about it, and then they talk about the change, and then they talk about the implications to their theology around that. So don't just hand wave it away with a really, really ignorant laugh, because that's just mean.
Well, let me tell you how your religion was decided upon, right? So you have the cycle of the
Tell me
sky.
I have a religion. I'm a pagan. I worship specific gods. You don't know anything about my religion.
Well, you have a side religion. You have a side religion.
No, I don't have a side religion. Stop
fair enough,
that
whatever, bro.
and stick to the facts and stop the childish rhetoric.
All right, we'll stick to the facts. So since the sky just keeps doing the same thing over and over, your fairy tale has to say and assume that the lights are thousands of light years away, literally because they have to be a minimum of that far away to not see different movement in the sky. So that's where we got this. Believe it or not, guys, we didn't go measure something from 1,000 light years away. That's not how we got
the precession of the equinox is something that's been observed by humanity for over 5,000
Can you respond to what
years.
WITSIT said? He just said that we didn't go measure something that's hundreds and thousands of light years away.
Because it's immaterial. He's saying, well, if it's the case that this is the case, therefore that must be the case. Cool. I accept that is the case. What I'm saying is I'm sticking to facts that I know about. So he's talking about the movement of the pole star. That's what we're discussing. He's trying to rabbit hole it. I'm trying to stick to the facts. And precession, which is one of the reasons why the pole star moves, it is the main reason, is something that we've been observing for thousands of years. And he wants to hand wave away with a childish laugh the efforts of his ancestors that came before him, like he doesn't give a fuck.
So you're now using both thousands of years and thousands of light years, and so you're relying on large numbers, and large numbers are not okay. Stop using them.
What do you mean large numbers aren't okay? If
Well, they aren't okay. Like 1 and 2, that's fine. 10, 20, maybe 100, that's fine. But 900, that's ridiculous. Stop using large numbers. We cannot handle them.
Do large numbers scare you?
Yeah, they scare me a lot.
I know they scare you.
You made me smile. That was funny.
Yeah, I'm aware that large numbers scare you.
You realize that 1,000 light years distance is something you cannot physically even comprehend. It's so far beyond you.
Yes,
that
I'm aware it's
no way
very far away.
That's why I was happily sticking to things that we've observed and recorded on Earth that's been done for thousands and thousands of years. The fact that we have a rich documented history of this kind of shit going on.
Bunch of people making shit up.
And WITSIT just wants to laugh and make it sound like it's a silly thing to invoke history.
Well, I think to blindly believe every single theory someone proposed.
Every single theory put across by WITSIT, that's poisoning the well from the start. Do you want to try again and actually address the fucking point rather than try and actually attack the man? Attack the argument, WITSIT, just for a fucking change.
I know, but I was going to surprise you, right? I was being a little more specific, like to blindly believe anything that people propose.
Attacking the man, not the argument.
No, and agree on at the time, right? And that's what it is, like the agreed upon best theory. That's where I'm attacking the fundamental presuppositions of the whole thing. To understand the sky, we have to understand that it's very cyclical in nature. And these lights have to be super far away for us to be spinning and revolving and shooting through space.
But
Right?
obviously it's not too cyclical if they were using a different North Star than what we do now.
Yeah, but as I'm sitting here reading and fact checking you, it doesn't really seem like they agree with you, man.
They don't agree with who doesn't agree with me.
What's not being agreed with?
Oh yeah, like that. You're saying that
Tubin?
it's known. No, that's specifically.
He's talking about the precession of the equinoxes.
Like
So-
you're talking about you looking at the North Star a long time ago. Like, dude, this doesn't help you out.
Do
Like,
you know what the precession of the equinox is?
the precession of the equinox.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
Do you know what it is?
Nope.
No, that's cool. I'm not trying to get a gotcha with it. It's not my style. I much prefer kicking stupid arguments than stupid people. So the precession of the equinox. So the sun rises at the spring and winter equinox, and behind that sunrise is a constellation. Over time, that constellation changes. So at the moment, we're in the age of Pisces. And by 2160, we will be in the age of Aquarius. So we're on the cusp of the age of Aquarius at the moment, hence songs like the age of Aquarius. That's something that happens over a large period of time. 1 degree every 72 years is the precessional movement. And obviously 306 degrees, that's about 24,700 and something years for a precessional cycle, where we'll go through all the houses of the zodiac. This is something that's been recorded by man for at least 4,500 to 5,000 years.
Okay.
So,
but the Earth's not a spinning ball, though.
According to you, it's not a spinning ball, but
No, according to all empirical evidence and observation ever.
No, that's a lie.
Yeah, so according to ancient Egyptians, 4800 BC, referencing Thuban as the unmoving star. It's kind of odd.
I'd really stop using dates, Chief Sitting Bull, because you're like thousands of years out every time you fucking say one.
I mean, let's be real, man. I already asked you a dagger, bro. I was like, so if the pyramid date that you assumed of 6,000 years, or you've now updated to 5,000, is wrong.
This has nothing to do with the pyramid dates.
Well, no, his other.
So do you understand how we do chronology dating in Egyptology?
You see the side. You see what the sky does, and then you assume that actually the Earth is spinning and revolving through space.
That's not how we get the dates for these things. But
That's how you get. That's how you try to pretend you understand them.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm talking from archaeology, WITSIT. I'm not talking about fucking astronomy.
Okay. What about it?
It's the fact that we have these records. We know pretty much roughly when these records were written. I'm not going to say we know the hour of the day or the day of the week or even the month of the year, but we've got a fairly good idea when these things were put down. And again, this is something that's been recorded not just by the Egyptians, but by the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Minoans, the British, or the ancient Celts, the Beaker people. All of these monuments they keep building have like an observation of precession in them. And you can see that even from the changing, the effects of the Sumerian culture and eventually the Babylonian culture on the Eastern Mediterranean. That's why you have the bull cults forming in the age of Taurus. It's why we have the Christian idea of the fish, Ixus. You're a Christian, fish symbol. Why?
Well, I don't
Because
like that term.
around 0, years was the changing into the age of Pisces. And
Mhm.
funny enough, you guys all started using a fish symbol. Ain't that weird? Don't you think that's a bit of a weird thing there?
That is
Dude?
pretty weird.
Actually, the fish symbol has like pagan undertones, and it tracks back to like female genitalia.
Oh, and you object to Jesus inscribing that on the ground?
Jesus inscribing the drawing of the female genitalia on the ground.
The fish.
When
That's
did
why we-
when did
Holy
Jesus?
fuck, I'm not going to teach you your Bible. Go and look it up, mate.
No. What I'm saying is, for one, dude, his name was Yeshua, right? And he did not draw this little symbol that's going around. That's also tied back
Yes,
to
the Bible's-
female genitalia. The little sign that
So,
everyone goes around saying is the fish of Christianity is actually a symbol that tracks back to female genitalia for thousands of years, spanning over many civilizations. My man.
Citations, WITSIT, were you there?
Okay, no, the people that recorded it
went
were
there.
though.
Thank you.
Wow, I guess I can say that to your fairy tale story about how pyramids prove the Earth's a magic spinning ball that defies physics.
And yes, Dross, we don't know why you're muted.
Again, you would
Must be
also have to explain why Christianity and Judaism seem to rip off a lot of things from religions that came before them.
Christianity is a religion.
Yes.
I don't adhere to religion, though, man. Like, I don't believe in the doctrine of men telling me theories that I'm supposed to believe in about anything. Like,
You
that's
believe in
religious.
Yeshua.
Well, Yeshua is one of the most historically accurate people to ever exist. So that's interesting.
there was
Huh?
a-
I guess you're gonna have to deal with that.
Yes, there was a prophet by the name of Yeshua around that time. But the stories about him aren't new, even for that era.
Surprisingly large amount of stories, like the most historically accurate figure ever. So I don't just blindly believe in him. What you said. No, he's like the most historically accurate figure ever. It's not that I'm blindly believing in him, but to blindly believe in stories about thousands of years of fairy tales about how fast you're shooting through lights that are thousands of light years away are mathematical constructs built upon presuppositions and theory and belief system from men. I'm opposed to that, though. I think it's the death of logic.
I have a question. How long ago did this Joshua figure live?
About 2,000 years ago.
Oh,
Sorry,
thousands of years.
Sorry, got interrupted, Witzik. For some reason, I got muted. I have no idea why. No idea why anyone would mute me. You know, there was a little bit of interjection back and forth, but for some reason, some cunt thought it was reasonable to mute me. How awesome. Well, I will wait till some cunt fucks off this server, and I'll catch you later, Witzik. Sorry for the interruption. I do apologize, because I thought we were actually having quite a productive conversation, where we're actually being quite pleasant to each other. A little bit of forcefulness behind our tone, but that was all good. But I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
a bit
good.
pissed
man.
off
We're-
now. Yeah, I'm a bit pissed off now because that was just fucking unnecessary. It just shows that some cunts like to abuse their power still and haven't learnt their fucking lesson, which I will make sure they start to learn again. Have fun, Chemo. I'll catch you later, mate.
Oof.
Yo, we can't just blindly believe all kinds of presupposed stories, man. Like, look, this was crafted with thousands and thousands of minds, and dare I say, even oftentimes brilliant minds, right? Because smart people believe that they're trying to actually explain the cutting edge of understanding the nature of where we live in our cosmic place, right? And so it has been built and basically cemented, even though it can never be cemented, but it's been like somewhat concreted with the thousands of smart people that truly believe it, trying to make it work. But what we need to do to be like productive is immediately to step back and be non-biased about the whole conversation, like immediately cut straight to the crucial presuppositions that the whole thing's built on, because I can lay out a very logical progression for you of a theory, and if everything I assume at the beginning of it without even saying I'm assuming it isn't true, it doesn't matter how good my theory sounds, man. You know, like it would still be wrong. So, like, that's the point, and that's just me coming up with one. I can guarantee you, I can do it. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of people for a long period of time trying to explain what they truly believe is the nature of the Earth. And so we've gotten really complex and built upon theories, but they still have these crucial presuppositions flooding them. And they've made that the norm. Basically, out of necessity, they've now called that science, and that's the norm. It's just to try to come up with whatever theory you can, and whoever has the most intriguing, seemingly plausible theory, they rock with it. And everyone rocks with it. Till one person
I
tries to
actually
change it.
sort of agree that we need to cut through the presuppositions. For example, some people believe that we only can attest to things that we have personally seen with our own naked eyes. Well, that leads to insane conclusions like China isn't real because I haven't been there. So those kind of presuppositions, yeah, we kind of need to expose them and verify. Okay, if you say that I have to be in this place and I have to be in that historical period to actually verify that what happened was real, well, does that actually work? Does that produce a scientific method that works? Is that a verifiably reasonable standard to hold for truth and evidence? And of course, we find out that it's not.
Yeah, of course not. That wouldn't be necessarily, and the only way you could say that was applicable is if someone's saying the only way you could know that the Earth was a ball was if you went to space and saw it yourself, and I've never said that. You would just be able to physically measure the curvature.
Yeah, and also we need to start talking about what does it mean to measure things in science, for example. Does it mean take a ruler? You cannot use any other instruments. The ruler is the only scientific instrument in existence. No, that's not how science works.
Well, no,
If
look,
you
we're
want
just
to say
talking.
that we can only use rulers,
Who the fuck
then we
said
have
that
to
we
find.
can only use rulers?
Well, some flat earthers do.
Who the
Was
fuck
it a
said
ruler?
that?
Flat earthers say that. If
Who
you
the
don't
fuck
like it,
said
then go
that?
talk to them and say
No
that it's
fucking
stupid.
flat earther said
Fucking flat
that we
earthers
can
say
only
that.
use.
I'm not angry about it. It's
So
not
what
my
other measuring device can we use to verify flat?
Lasers.
Jesus. fucking
Lasers are subject to refraction, so that one's out.
So, wait, real fast, just to recap, right? So,
Mhm.
I was saying the only way that his point could have been applicable was if someone says you went all the way out into space and had to see it, because he's like, if you can't see it, right? Like, China doesn't exist in Australia. And I'm like, no, that's just this talking point Glover say, but flat earthers don't really make that argument. Like, I've never said that the only way is if we put me in a spaceship, I go out and I see it. If I ever say that, it's like a joke, understanding that, unless, of course, this was ever addressed. And I said instinctively what I thought as a non-biased person, like, you would be able to physically measure the curvature. And then he started doing the semantical thing of science and measurements, trying to make it be able to be conflated into calculations. Obviously, is his end goal. And my point is just that's a part we should all agree on. If the Earth were in fact a ball, right? Like you would be able to physically measure the curve.
Mm-hmm. So
Just
like when we compress panoramic pictures, right? We see the curve in the horizon.
No,
Oh no?
that's not physically measuring curvature, man.
I think that's measuring curvature.
Compressing photos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So you agree that's
Right.
definitely not physically measuring the curvature.
Well, how do you measure? How do you physically measure the curvature?
With a ruler, maybe.
Well,
Yeah, with a really
no,
really long ruler, right?
we physically measure the surface of the Earth with plane survey, right? I mean, that's very suitable. I mean, and it's strenuous, and you limit, try to limit the best you can.
I'm glad you brought up plane surveys because plane surveys show curvature.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They're called plane surveys, dude.
Okay, and what do you think that means?
He just fucked you up.
Like, dude, I know what it means, and it's the only way you can actually measure the Earth. It's to assume the Earth's a plane, and you drop a plumb bob vertical to the assumed perpendicular plane. That's why it's called
So,
plane survey.
so when we use surveying equipment and we look out over the horizon and we notice that buildings show up lower than what they should, it's kind of odd.
It is pretty odd that when we look out at the horizon, it constantly moves around, and at times goes way too far for it to be the physical Earth's curvature. It extends effectively in theory, and
Yes.
well, that's just not really possible, bro. And you can pretend that it's possible, but
Well,
it
it's
isn't.
possible.
And
Because we
and
know refraction's a thing.
it extends the physical curvature.
Mm-hmm.
It physically
Oh, it doesn't
extends it.
extend. It doesn't extend the physical curvature. It makes it appear like it's like that because
Oh,
we know refraction exists.
okay, that's just a word though. But how does the physical curvature extend? Does it go invisible?
The physical curvature isn't changing. It's always there. But
It just goes
how you
invisible.
perceive it, how you see it, is different.
So perceivably, it goes invisible.